All right, so we get to the NHL playoffs.
You got to rub it in again. The Kings will be watching on television, but I guess we'll participate.
Let's start out with the East.
Okay.
First round, we got the Rangers, who were number one, wild card number one, against number one Montreal. Montreal swept that series 3-0, and I don't see any reason why they won't brush aside the Rangers advance. The other series in that side of the bracket is Boston, the number 3 seed, against Ottawa, the number 2 seed. Again, Ottawa swept. I think Ottawa advances. I think you're going to see Montreal and Ottawa in the second round. Do we want to go through the entire?
Well, why don't we go down that east?
Okay.
We got the Capitals and the Maple Leafs, so the number one on that side of the bracket with the wild card number 2, the Maple Leafs. The Caps are just so darn good. You just wonder, what are they going to do to shoot themselves in the foot this year? But, their goalie is outstanding. Their first, second, third lines, they can go even as deep as their fourth line and score. Yeah. The Caps, as far as I'm concerned, all the way there. And then you've got the Penguins and the Blue Jackets, 2 and 3 on the bottom half. I don't care who's coming out of that. I think it's the Caps advancing from there. But the Penguins, the defending Stanley Cup champs, I think should be easy for them there. But I think the Capitals want that rematch.
Going back to the Montreal Rangers game, I think this is going to be goalie versus goalie, to be honest with you. You got Price versus Lundqvist. I think it's going to come down to the Rangers offense versus the Montreal to their defense. I'm actually going to go with the Rangers because I think the Rangers have more firepower. But I know Montreal picking up Shaw was big from Chicago, but I don't know. This is hockey on the East Coast is absolutely insane, and it's a religion. And I wish that actually the West Coast would get that more. But these people, are grabbing their sprinklers and turning their front yard into an ice rink. We can't, right? But it's just when you go to a playoff game in the East Coast, it's absolutely insanity. So I got the Rangers beating them. I actually think that the Boston Ottawa, Ottawa always finds a way in the playoffs to shoot themselves in the foot. I just have a feeling that this is going to be, who's going to screw up the most, and then whoever does, is going to lose that. But I actually have Boston in that series just because of Ottawa's track record in the playoffs is usually not the best. Washington, Toronto, you're absolutely right, Vince. I mean, it's absolutely insane how strong this team is. And when you've got Price and Ovechkin and how deep their line play is, and they've got to rest their guys coming down the stretch. It was just, I think they're going to be just, and Toronto, I think they're up and coming. Actually, I think they're young. They had to win the last game. I think to get in. But Freddie Anderson's there, our old goalie. But this kid Austin Matthews makes things happen on ice, like a Connor McDavid. But I still think that, the Washington's going to fly through that. But I think the Columbus-Pittsburgh series could be more interesting. Don't you have that? Is it John Tortorella, Tortorella? How do you say his name? Tortorella. He's the old coach from the Rangers and stuff. And he's with Columbus. And he will have that team ready to go. Now, is Murray going to be the goalie there? Is Fleury going to be Murray's got most times in the net, but this kid Fleury for Pittsburgh is a phenomenal goalie. So I don't know what's going to go on there. But you got Crosby and Malkin. I mean, it's going to be Pittsburgh, but I think they could give them a headache. So
that series was 2-2 during the year, and the home team won all 4 games. So my only thought there would be perhaps the Game 7 in Pittsburgh might make a difference. And
then I have the Rangers playing the Bruins, Rangers beating the Bruins. I have the Capitals beating the Penguins. I have the Penguins advancing, and then I have the Capitals beating the Penguins. Yeah. And then maybe we'll keep it at Final Four and then come back.
I've got the Canadiens and the Bruins and the Caps and the Penguins, and I think, like I said before, I think the Caps are emerging from that side. I think they beat the Penguins this year, and then I think it's going to be a 1-versus-1 over there with the Canadiens. I'm not as high on the Rangers, but I like the Canadiens. I think they're a terrific team. So I think it's going to be the Caps and the Canadiens.
Well,
I would send the Caps there. I just think that they're just too good.
I have them
too
go
good
through.
to fail.
I have the Caps beating the Rangers also to go to the finals.
The NHL Power Rankings, Scott Burnside on ESPN has Washington number 1.
Yeah.
Which is not any surprise at all.
No.
There are some interesting things in that Toronto-Washington series. The road team won all 3 games. The Toronto actually did beat Washington once in Washington, but I don't think that's going to happen this time around. All right, what do I have? I've got Montreal advancing. Pittsburgh, Washington wins. Yeah, I've got the same thing. Washington, Montreal in the East Final, with Washington winning it.
Yeah.
All right, get to the West.
Yeah, let's get to the West.
Let's get to the West.
The wild, wild West.
Yeah. First round, we got Nashville, number 2 wild card against Chicago. And St. Louis, number 3 against Minnesota, number 2. This is where I think our old buddy Bruce Boudreau is going to keep his streak alive of losing Game 7 at home. St. Louis won that series 3-2. Minnesota would get the 7th game, but I look for St. Louis to beat them in Minnesota in that 7th game.
Yeah, St. Louis is hot right now. They finished the season absolutely red hot, but don't sleep on the Wild. That is a good team. They hit a tough stretch, but I have the Wild coming through there. I think Boudreau is a great coach, and I think maybe some of those demons will be exercised this year. I don't think that's. I think it could go 7, but I think the Wild are going to be surprising, and
well, they're a good team.
Maybe I'm silly that they're the number 2 seed on the top up there, but the Blues are playing great. The Blues are playing great. There's no question about that. And then the Blackhawks and the Predators. Minnesota gets the winner there. The Blackhawks are good. I know your wife is excited about the.
Yeah, I actually so I want Nashville to win so bad it's unbelievable that I took them, and I know my wife's going to watch this podcast and she's not going to be too happy about it. But I'm actually going off of is it Peke Rene, their goalie in Nashville? He's having a heck of a year. And I hope he just stands on his head and knocks everything that Taves and Kane and Keith brings to him. But you need Forsberg to have a hell of a series on offense versus their defense. And then the Crawford is so good in goal, and he just knows how to handle the playoffs. And I just hope that you got to be able to maintain and beat them in the power play. When you have a power play, you got to score, and because Chicago will score. Yeah. So I'm picking Nashville, and I might be sleeping on the couch, but I'm picking Nashville. Minnesota, I'm right there with you guys. I think this thing is going to be it's going to be a slugfest.
Yeah,
and I actually have. There's a reason why Minnesota is the second team out of the West, but I have a feeling that they're going to be. They're gonna slight. I think it's gonna be 6 or 7. I think it's gonna be. He's hoping he doesn't go Game 7. I'll tell you that much. But I've got Minnesota advancing, but it's going to be. It might be one of the best hockey series of the whole bunch, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I've got the Wild and the Blackhawks advancing there.
Yeah, so I have the Wild beating the Nashville. I have them beating Nashville after,
Okay.
But I think that Minnesota-St. Louis series is going to strictly come down to goaltending. Whatever goaltender's hot, that's who's going to win. But that's how I have the Wild beating Nashville after that. So
The other side of that is Calgary and the Ducks, and San Jose and Edmonton. We all know Calgary's lost 26 straight games in Anaheim, including 5 in the postseason. They haven't won at Honda since January 19th of 2004. The Ducks won the season series 4-1. They're hot right now. They've got points in their last 14 games. They're 11-0-3. So I look for them to come out of that series against Calgary. Also, the San Jose Edmonton. San Jose is just going down the toilet here at the end of the season. Edmonton is hotter than a pistol. Edmonton won the season series. They've got home ice. I think Edmonton and the Ducks play in the next round.
Yeah, the only thing that's intriguing for me about that Ducks Calgary, I think the Ducks are going to take it. It maybe 4-1 is sort of what I'm thinking. Yeah. The only thing that's intriguing is what happened in their last game with all of the fights and the posturing. And, Calgary sort of needed to do that. And they thought, let's try and push these guys around. We're going to face them. We're going to be the underdogs in this. But I thought the Ducks really handled it well. They stood up for their teammates and for who was it, Fowler?
They lost Cam Fowler, yeah.
But is he going to be back for the playoffs, or or is he still day to day? I haven't
heard.
They
don't.
Yeah, I expect that there's going to be some payback early in that series, but once the Ducks get that distraction out of the way, Calgary's going to probably want to try and incite that a little bit.
Right.
The Ducks are too good. The Ducks are too good. I think they skate easily past the Flames. And then I like the Oilers. It's such a good young team. The Sharks, like you said, they're not ready for the playoffs right
now.
I started looking at this Anaheim-Calgary matchup, and I absolutely agree with you guys. I think we got a chance of kind of getting through their 4-1 or something like that, but I'm scared, actually, and the reason why is you're down 3-0 or, going into, or maybe you're down 3-1, is it going to get chippy? We're going to lose another guy, and because I have a feeling that's going to come out, and if they know they're going to be losing this and it's going into the third period and we're going to clinch 4-1, it could get really, I don't know if you guys, I found this out today, but the Ducks led the NHL with more fighting majors than anybody in the NHL.
Wow.
And they're going to have to keep their gloves on and not get themselves in trouble here.
Yeah,
because Calgary's like, we got nothing to lose. Yeah, you want to bring it on? Let's fight, and we don't need anybody getting hurt. And that's the only thing I'm worried about this is, we can't lose any more people. If Fowler's going to be out for this series because we feel like it'd be great to rest him, I'm just scared. I'm scared about somebody getting hurt in that deal. And so, but we're heavy favorites. We should be heavy favorites, and I just hope we get through there. And then I got the Oilers. I love to watch this kid Connor McDavid play. It's just a fun
ridiculous
kid to watch play, and he can take the whole team and put him on his back and go. He's explosive. He's creative. He's big.
Yep.
And if Talbot can play some good goalie. I think the Oilers are going to win that, and I actually have the Ducks beating the Oilers and the Wild. So I've got the matchup of both coaches going at it here, Ducks versus Wild, and somebody's going to win a Game 7. I have a feeling.
For sure. I'm with you. I've got the Ducks and the Wild, going to the conference final. I think it's going to be a very close one. And as a Kings fan, I'll just have to pick the Wild. But my heart's not in it. I think the Ducks are too good. But that's a very good Wild team.
That Edmonton series scares me. I think the Ducks will win it, but it's going to be a tough 7-game series.
It's going to get tougher as it goes on. It always does. And I tell you, these things, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint,
That's right.
So I agree. It's not going to get easier as it goes on. And I agree with you, Vince. It could come down to a Game 7 in that. And
I think it's critical for the Ducks to take care of business with Calgary in as few games as possible. I think it'll be
quick.
5, but if that goes 7, I think that spells trouble for them.
Yes.
Whether they win it in 7, I think that spells trouble. Advancing. You don't want to play more games than you have to.
Right.
So if they can sweep or
4-1 sounds reasonable.
Yeah, 4-1 sounds reasonable.
I like Chicago over St. Louis. Chicago's number 2 in the power rankings. So my West Finals have the Ducks in Chicago.
It's gonna be interesting, and I think for Canadians, it's likely not going to be another. At least from our picks, it's not going to be another. Not a Canadian winner of the Stanley Cup this year again.
So John, your Blackhawks Ducks Western scares me to death, and the reason why is this. Have you been to a Blackhawk? So I've had to go to these finals because of my wife, okay? And there's almost more Blackhawk fans in Anaheim than there are Ducks fans. And it's, you know what, it's very easy because they go to a home game in Chicago and they almost come to a home game in Anaheim. Right. So there are Blackhawks fans all over the West Coast. And they come to watch them, and so that scares me. I don't need the Blackhawks to be playing the Ducks. The
Ducks have played them well this season. They won the season series 2-1. Chicago hasn't scored in the last 7 periods.
Yeah, but I mean, in that last game that they beat them like 4-0, I was there.
Yeah.
Right. Taves didn't play. Keith didn't play.
Right, but they beat them 1-0 in Chicago.
And that
too.
was a huge. That was a big accomplishment. That was a big accomplishment.
So I think the Ducks will give them a go. I think the Ducks will beat them.
So who's your final, John?
The finals?
Yeah.
Washington and the Ducks.
Okay, and?
Ducks.
Okay.
I've got the Wild and the Caps, and I think it's going to be the Caps. Caps.
And I have the Ducks in the Capitals, and I hate to say this, but I think the Capitals will beat the Ducks. It's just because of the depth. Yeah. That's all it is. It's just the depth.
I think that would be a terrific
But I think it's
Cup.
going to be it would be a great Stanley. I think it's 6-7 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I think for the Ducks, if they can come into that final having not played full series, where
that's a key,
and if the Caps have grind it out a little bit or have to extend it to 6 or 7 in some of those series, that might be the key. But
plus
you get that little bit of an advantage.
You got to be healthy. You got to have, if you have Cam Fowler, if he comes back at some point before that final series, because he's an integral part of the power play, a penalty kill, and he's their top offensive defenseman.
Yeah.
He eats up about 25 minutes a game. That's a huge...
And he's had great scoring this year. He scored a lot of goals this year for us.
That's a huge loss. Okay.
All right. So, Vince, I'll give you my... if you want to keep an eye on
I'll be
these things.
the secretary. I'll be the recorder of that.